So we're aiming to be the #1 VR game developer and publisher, making the very best, the very biggest, the most successful VR games.
Everybody ready? Ready.
It's about immersing yourself in these incredible worlds and losing yourself in the best games possible. And that's what we think we can do better than anyone else. So the initial vision was that we wanted to do games that were at the cutting edge, to do things that were in new technology, new areas, breaking new ground, trying new things. We absolutely didn't want to copy other people's games and do similar things. We wanted to do stuff that hadn't been done before. So we started off doing that in this new virtual world called PlayStation Home. We became the first big developer in there, making very ambitious new games. And we've sort of continued that growth right through to virtual reality, being one of the first teams anywhere in the world to pivot to VR. In 2013, we saw the first Oculus headset and the first PlayStation VR headset behind closed doors very early on, and fell in love with it and went, this is going to change things. This is going to make things, this is going to revolutionize how games are made. So we decided to pivot completely to virtual reality. And we had some money in the bank, but we realized fairly soon afterwards that this was not going to be something that took off and became hugely commercial in 12 months. This was something that was going to take, several years to get there. And actually it's only just becoming commercial now. And we pivoted at the end of 2013. I met a guy called Mike Hayes, who I'd known from the games industry, who was working as an investment manager at Mercia. And to be fair to Mercia, they completely understood, completely jumped on board, shared the vision about where VR was going to go, shared the understanding that this might not be a 2-year thing, this might be a bit longer than that, but the reward was worth that sort of patience. So they came in at the EIS level, and then as we've scaled and grown and as revenues have grown and we've got bigger, they've supported us all the way through to Series A. And then last year we decided we needed rocket fuel. Things were going so well, we were turning work down, we just didn't have enough people. And so we've now got a new investor on board called Ionic, who sort of put in a rocket fuel round to allow us to really go sort of hell for leather. So the VR market is starting to grow very, very fast. I think for me, a really interesting point was Boxing Day last year when I looked at my iPhone and the top free app, the top #1 free app was the Oculus app, above TikTok, above Facebook, above everything else. And I think that's a sign of how mass market this is starting to become. The market that we can hit is getting very large. There's well over 12 million Quests and Quest 2s out there which are being actively used. Sony are very focused on PlayStation VR 2, and there are other headsets coming. There's no secret that Apple have been working on AR VR headsets with a lot of people for a long time, and that will come at some point, and that's going to be big as well. Companies like ByteDance, who own TikTok, actually have bought Pico and are bringing their own headsets out now. So there's a lot of competition in the market. That install base is growing all the time, and that's great for us. So we've been learning a lot, of course, in the time about how to make great VR games. And as the VR market has expanded and as there's more headsets out there, the budgets that we're getting are growing more and more all the time. So the games are able to create a much more elaborate, much more detailed, much more impressive. So we started with games like The Assembly, which was a sort of narrative-based story game, which we were very proud of, but was short and sweet. Shooty Fruity was a fun little game, again, a very low budget, but really fun and great to play. And then if you compare that to more recent games, Phantom Covert Ops, which won a lot of awards and sold really well, Fract, Far Cry, which we did as a location-based VR experience. You can go to zero latency VR hubs, put on a backpack and a headset and run around with your friends playing Far Cry, and that's great fun. And now things like Ghostbusters, which we recently announced, which is a very big budget compared to anything we've done before. So developing a Ghostbusters VR game was definitely a little bit daunting because it's a big IP with a lot of fans, and I think that was highlighted when it was announced. Mark Zuckerberg got up there at the end of the Oculus show and announced this game, and then the host got into Ecto 1 and drove away, and it was a really big announcement.
We can't just end the show without one last world premiere. So remember, if there's something strange in your neighborhood,
thanks for watching.
So I think what makes us different is the quality. It's always been about the quality. We're trying to make VR games that are better and more fun and more engaging. At the very beginning, we think about the core gameplay. It's about what is that game mechanic that you do? How does it use VR? How do you use your hands, your hand controllers, the fact that you can look around 360, the fact that you can look behind things to really get the most out of VR, to make sure it's just such a great fun VR, designed for VR experience. We're aiming at the high end. We're trying to make the very best VR games. And at the same time, our third-party publishing team is trying to find unusual, really interesting, really cool, different games that we could publish, like Little Cities. And again, I would argue it may not be the most expensive game in terms of budget, but it's a quality game. It's really fun. It plays really well. So I think quality comes through in everything we're trying to do. And the games we're now looking at are massive in terms of size and scale. So everything's getting bigger, everything's getting more extravagant. We're getting closer towards the size of a PlayStation 5 game or an Xbox or a PC game, which just wasn't the case in the past. So when we pivoted to VR in 2013, we were probably around 35 people, 35, 40 people. This time last year, we were about 100, and now we're 150. So I think that gives you an example of how much we've grown since we started VR, but also how fast we've been scaling in the last 12 months. So you will see much bigger, much better games as we move forward. Some really exciting things as new headsets launch. You'll see us, really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with VR as you see new VR devices and headsets launching that allow us to do more and more and more.